Wastwater at London's Royal Court, the consequence of actions in 3 visions of menace, loss and loneliness.
I'm just being a mother.
Yeah.
It's a habit I've learned to acquire.
Wastwater in Cumbria is England's deepest lake, a fact that comes up in Simon Stevens' play of the same name, which opened at the Royal Court Theatre in London this week. Directed by Katie Mitchell, the play is a series of 3 loosely interlinked stories, all set in the periphery of Heathrow Airport and imbued with varying degrees of menace.
Olivier Award-winning playwright Simon Stevens seems particularly drawn to difficult subjects. He's previously written about a school massacre, the personal fallout from the Iraq War and the 7/7 bombings. Wastwater charts equally dark territory, exploring 3 sets of complex psychological relationships.
What I wanted to do to the audience was to unsettle them. I think it's a very healthy and creative thing to do to somebody, to take the world which they think they recognise and then to undermine it. I think art can do that really brilliantly.
Frida, played by Linda Bassett, is struggling to bid farewell to her troubled foster son Harry, Tom Sturridge, who's escaping a difficult past for a new start in Canada.
Have you got your passport?
In my bag.
And your phone? Have you got your debit card? Oh, don't laugh.
Well, you're being a bit bonkers.
I'm not. I'm just being a mother.
Yeah.
It's a habit I've learned to acquire.
The second pairing are strangers who meet for sex in an airport hotel. Disturbing undercurrents of violence emerge as past secrets are revealed. And in the final scene of the triptych, a child trafficker plays an ugly cat-and-mouse game with her client as he waits for delivery of his 9-year-old purchase.
I think all of my work stems from the fact that I'm a parent, that I'm a father. It's one of the things I'm most proud of. I read in one of these news stories the possibility that Madeleine McCann had been taken to be sold not into a sex industry but to be sold to be adopted illegally. And there was something so abhorrent about that idea, something so unthinkable about the idea that somebody could steal and buy a child in order to parent them, that it really cut to my quick. I couldn't shake it out of my imagination and I really wanted to write about it.
The play sets out to disturb and unnerve, but will it appeal to those not already fans of Stevens' dark style?
Yeah, Alex, obviously this was about unsettling the audience as much as anything and making you think, but did he succeed in that?
For me, absolutely. I thought this was a wonderful, wonderful play. I thought it was difficult. It was, profoundly unsettling and sometimes very, very hard to watch, but beautifully acted. I think Katie Mitchell is one of our great directors. I hugely enjoyed her version of The Seagull, of Strindberg's Dream Play, and I think Simon Stevens' script is wonderful. So, yeah, I thought very, very difficult play, but very, very successful in the end.
You're shaking your head.
No, it didn't work for me at all. It works as a series of scenes, and the only connection between the scenes is that characters in the scene after mention characters in the scene before.
No, you see, I completely disagree.
Really, it just doesn't work. What it doesn't have a central narrative thread pulling all the scenes together, actually. And the only scene that I was really affected by was the last scene and the look of the last scene. I thought the set design was fabulous.
Throughout,
it doesn't have a linear narrative, but what it does have is this sort of pulsing vein of unheimlich, flowing through.
That's absolutely right.
But it is. I mean, it is. It's just this uncanny feeling of disquiet and discomfort, and also this strange theme from Carmen, this Bizet, the habanera. Love is a rebellious bird, and these shadows of planes. And the environs of casting over.
But what kind of theatre is it?
Theatre of the uncanny.
I thought it didn't earn its place. I felt that I agree with the fact that it looked beautiful, it's wonderfully written, it's fantastically schematic. I mean, the imagery, it's like doing an A-level essay, you can see the imagery, water, sand, dry, deep, the central images of the lake that never comes out of shadow, and so there are bodies lurking beneath. So it's set up beautifully. But I feel that if I'm going to be made to suffer, if I'm going to be made to think about unpleasant things, then I want the characters on the stage to earn their keep. I want them to make me care about them, and I didn't care about
That's interesting, because actually I thought that the whole thing about the departure, waiting, arrival, in the departure story, Frida, who is the foster mother, you see, I thought I cared about her because she obviously had become so involved in her fostering, and it became her life, and she couldn't bear to see this boy go. That to me, there was a huge emotional thread in that first one of the triptych that didn't exist in the others.
And I wanted to know more about her, and then the link with the last one, because the last girl is the girl who she's fostered unsuccessfully.
But isn't that the problem with doing a triptych, that you do compare the various plays? And you know, I thought the first two were great. Actually, the last one, exactly the same as you. I found it very, very difficult to care about the dynamic. And the other thing I found really weird about that, you know, both in terms of what the critics have said and listening to the kind of various Sloanes who were hanging out in the bar at the Royal Court afterwards, who all look like they're friends with Wills and Kate, was this idea of paedophilia as a thing that everyone seemed to take that just as read, that this was a paedophilic relationship.
I think it's what was not explicit that was actually
and that's
more
what's so unsettling.
The superficial
I didn't find it particularly.
themes.
Take the second scene where there's a lot of talk about sex and we're meant to feel shocked. I wasn't shocked. This is the 21st century. Who's shocked by that? Paedophilia has been around.
The character on stage was shocked.
Yeah, but I'm not as a member of the audience.
Deeply shocked,
so who is it for? Is it for the character, or is it for?
We thought we knew what
the
the setup was, and each of them, we think, we're not quite sure if this is a mother-son relationship in the first one. Is it a foster mother-son, or is it something a little bit more sinister?
And also in that
the
second
one, is it an illicit tryst, or is it a little bit more sinister?
That's what I thought was really interesting. I think so much of that is in her head.
But aren't you always deeply suspicious of a play by a male playwright in which a woman asked to be hit? And I think I was really uneasy about that, because I felt that was just to make the audience feel a kind of ooh. And I was very uneasy about it. I think Simon Stevens is a really good playwright, but I thought this was... I thought it had a sort of meretricious quality, which I didn't like.
I know you said, was the middle one not sort of slightly, I mean, obviously out of kilter, but in terms of the kind of way it was constructed, delivered and thought about, it just actually wasn't as subtle. It just kind of went over the top.
Actually, what was so interesting about it was that throughout the play you have a real lack of physical contact between the actors, and you know, the lights come down even before Frida and Harry hug in the first play, and that is why that hit, which comes from sexual tension slowly being unsatisfied, more and more.
They're remarkably static setups.
It's hugely static, and then that is why
it can be problematic. You see, you've got that fabulous set, and it is very static,
and it gives the characters themselves. There was this.
For me, as a member of the audience, it felt very static. The tone felt very static. And for me, going to a theatre, I wanted a much more controlled sense of story, and I didn't get that. I left feeling baffled and confused. That's how I left feeling.
But it might have been what he was trying to do. But there was an essential story, because there was a thread of the three. There was a story, and this confusion.
Make a story, I don't think.
But there was a thread. But in the confusion in the last one, where it is completely unstated either in the text or on stage as to whether this man was coming to pay money for a child as a paedophile, or was he coming to? It was unspoken, and I kind of wondered whether or not you needed that kind of uncertainty, because actually it was bad enough in a way what he was doing. And
leaving it unspoken, it makes it far more unsettling. It's, I mean, that is very
because then because your own thoughts, it asks you as the audience to have that response. And that's.
But if you're going to be made to suffer, if you're going to be made to consider, as he said in the film, you know, about the horrible, bleak, miserable things that surround childcare in the world, and how horrible and vile people are to children and cruel, then I feel I want to learn more than I did from that play.
Well, I can safely say there's a male-female desire to divide in this one. Wastwater continues at the Royal Court until the 7th of May.